Good morning, my friends. Good morning. It's a rainy day. I say hello to you and welcome to the reading through of the Psalms, a part of quite a project of time anyway, in terms of reading through the Bible, a plain reading of the Bible, trying to take it at its face value. And my name is Pastor Lou Kilgore, and I am happy to be here. I serve as a pastor at the High Mountain Presbyterian Church, which is, I'm physically located today at the High Mountain Presbyterian Church in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. And I'm glad to be here with you. Thanks for stopping by. We are reading through, if you haven't been here before, we're reading through the Psalms, and we're making our way pretty consistently, one psalm every Wednesday. And today we are at Psalm 35. No, we are at Psalm 34. And this psalm has a few very beautiful and familiar phrases in it. The psalm is an acrostic psalm. If you know what that means, you take the alphabet A, B, C, D, E. Our alphabet, that is, and then you start with A and you say, the two sentences begin then with the letter A, and then the next sentence begins with the letter B. It's organized in that way, and therefore it's not developed, it doesn't develop a big theme like a psalm that has paragraphs in it, or you can tell that what's driving the statements that are made next have to do with which letter of the alphabet comes next. But I'm gonna read it, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about it. A lot of it is very accessible, which means that you can hear it and you can know exactly what the poet was aiming at. You don't have to look beyond the surface meanings of the words, and it can still be very encouraging. Now, I want to start off by saying that in the tiny print, in what is in some ways the first verse, it says that this psalm is a psalm for David. And it points to an event that happened and is recorded in 1 Samuel in the life of David, where he was faced with an enemy king who was threatening him, and David pretended to be out of his mind. He pretended to be a madman. And because he did it so well, that foreign enemy king named Abimelech here, but in scholarly work that you probably wouldn't be interested in knowing, the name of the king in 1 Samuel that was engaged in a situation like this was not Abimelech. Abimelech is a name for a king, like the word Pharaoh is the name for the ruler of Egypt. And so Abimelech doesn't really matter. But the point is, there's nothing in the psalm that does or gives any detail or any reference to anything of this event in David's life. At one point, I guess we're supposed to imagine that, I don't know, it's just there's a big disconnect. So the first verse for David, when he feigned madness before Abimelech, so that he drove him out and he left. I don't know. There's not much else in the psalm, all 23 verses, that has any bearing on that, but there it is. So there's some sense in which the parts and pieces of this psalm have been edited over many years. Some parts of it, the first versing parts of it, scholars think are quite ancient. But some of the rest of it is more contemporary. So it ended up together as a psalm, and as a beautiful psalm that is claimed not only by the Hebrew tradition, but also in the Christian tradition. So let's read, and you can make note of the phrases that are familiar because they get repeated often in Christian gatherings, not the least of which is the very first line. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall be continually in my mouth. My soul makes its boast in the Lord. The humble shall hear and shall rejoice. O magnify the Lord with me, and together let us exalt his name. I have sought the Lord, and he answered me. He has delivered me from all of my terrors. Look at him and be radiant, and let not your faces be ashamed. This poor man called, and the Lord heard and delivered him from all of his troubles. The Lord's angel is encamped around those who fear him, to rescue them. Taste and see how good the Lord is. Blessed is the man who seeks refuge in God. Fear the Lord, O you his saints, for they who fear him have no lack. The young lions are in need, and they are hungry, but they who seek the Lord shall not lack any good thing. Come, children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Who is the man that takes pleasure in life, that loves days, so that he may see goodness? Keep your tongue from evil, and your lips from speaking deceit. Turn from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears open to their cry for help. The Lord's face is against those who do evil, to cut off the memory of them from the earth. They cry out, and the Lord hears, and delivers them from all of their troubles. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and saves those who are spiritually crushed. The righteous one's afflictions are many, but the Lord delivers them from all of them. God watches over all his bones. Not one of them shall be broken. Evil shall slay the wicked, and those who hate the righteous will be desolate. The Lord redeems the souls of his servants, and all those who seek refuge in God will not be desolate. So again, I'm sure if you're familiar at all with the hymns that are written and sung in the Christian gatherings, so many of the beautiful images of this Psalm 34 make up the music that we sing. And just even one line, magnify the Lord with me and let us exalt his name together. There's a hymn in that not the whole of the psalm, but that one verse becomes the basis of a hymn that is sung in Christian worship. Taste and see how the Lord is good. We certainly know that. And there's a whole unit in here, and I'm going to talk about this now, about the fear of the Lord. I'll start by just commenting on the fact that there's a lot of bragging and boasting in the beginning of this. Magnifying the Lord, make the Lord great. There's a lot of boasting and bragging about God. Now, the point here is to be very careful, because boasting and bragging are not, they're not endearing characteristics of human beings at all. In fact, boasting and bragging are the opposite of the person you really want to be around. But this magnifying or making great it's not even that by, so the writer of the psalm is bragging about God. So it's different than bragging about yourself. It's bragging about God, boasting about how great God is. And it's not as if human beings boasting about God or building God up in their words makes God greater. That's not the point. The point is actually that this this public acclamation of how great God is doesn't change the essence of God, but it creates awareness of God's greatness in perception of others. The point here is the psalmist is bragging about God in order to invite and to attract others to become aware of who God is and how God is. The psalmist's own experience, he says himself, I was in trouble once. And this is, I guess, is the link to the idea that David once pretended to be out of his mind, and God gave him that idea, and therefore his life was saved. But the psalmist himself has had experiences of deliverance from God that it inspires him to invite others to experience that same thing. So you have these beckoning within the psalm. Come, taste the Lord. Taste God and see that God is good. They are addressed to the humble, he says, who have already been invited to join in the praise. So the language of the psalm implies that the writer of the psalm has known deliverance from God. And the implication, I don't know how they get this, but the implication is that it was a military circumstance in which the psalmist had prayed for deliverance and received it. And then therefore is willing to say, you know, God is really wonderful, amazing, and come, all of you who are humble in heart and are able to see it and hear it, come and taste and see that the Lord. The divine deliverance or salvation requires a movement, namely the response of faith that tastes. You have to taste, you have to participate, you have to imbibe this relationship with God. Claim it for yourself is what the psalmist is saying. And then the psalmist goes on after this wonderful acclamation of God, which is to be inviting to us. The psalmist goes on in a very teaching kind of mode. There is wisdom here. There's wisdom literature embedded in this. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That's sort of a very characteristic, base, didactic. It's a curriculum that is a part of the whole ethos of this life with God. Fear of the Lord. And I'm going to go back to what I've said before. This is not talking about being afraid of God. It's not. This is about opening your heart, your mind, your eyes to be in awe of what God is. To see, again, the magnitude, the enormity of God, the stretch of God, the ability of God to be in all situations. And then there is the promise that for those who embody this, I'm going to read this from the commentator. There are imperatives in this. You're exhorted to live a life which embodies the principle of the fear of the Lord. And the response makes it clear that the moral life embraces both speech and action. With respect to speech, there is to be neither evil nor deceit. With respect to action, there is to be a shunning of evil and embracing the good. It's clear that the required integrity of speech and action presupposes the integrity of mind. For words and work are rooted in a person's inner intentions. It's also clear that the life of speech and of action are intimately related, for evil words can be as destructive as evil acts. Thus, the tongue may be an enormously powerful force for evil, and wars are spawned within human hearts. So, to go back to the language of the psalm, I want to read this part for you again. Come, children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Who is the man that takes pleasure in life, that loves days, so that he may see goodness? It's a question. Who is? Well, the guidance is keep your tongue from evil. Stop yourself from being given over to the idea of speaking evil, and your lips from speaking deceit. Stay away from lying or deceiving other people. Turn from evil to good and seek peace and pursue it. This is, the commentator here makes a little side comment at one point and says, this may be a lesson that God has tried to teach us over and over and over again, but it's certainly one that we don't seem to follow very well. So there's a lesson, there's a teaching. The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears are open to their cry for help. Now, I want to remind you that in the Hebrew Scriptures, when it uses the word righteous, it's not talking about the good people. It's not talking about people who can walk around and boast because they're better than other people, or that they live perfect lives. Far from it. That boasting for self and that pride is the opposite of righteousness. Righteousness is the humble attitude towards God, which recognizes that I am right with God, that I've received the forgiveness that is necessary for my broken life, and it's not just something that's one and done. A righteous relationship with God is a relationship based on God's efforts towards loving us. And so, totally the opposite of the idea that, the eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous and his ears are open to their cry for the help. It's stay away from evil, don't speak lies, and remember that the pathway of humility and of life in humility is the pathway that keeps you close with God, that keeps the relationship with God open and clear and clean. Then it goes on in the teaching to say, the Lord's face is against those who do evil, to cut off the memory of them from the earth. They cry out, and the Lord, meaning they cry out, the righteous cry out, and the Lord hears and delivers them from their troubles. I want to read this part, and then I want to talk a little bit about what the commentator says, which I think is so profound. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are spiritually crushed. The righteous one's afflictions are many, but the Lord delivers them from them all. He watches over his bones, and not one of them shall be broken. Now, in all of my own life and in the life of being a teacher and a preacher, I feel like I fight this battle all the time. That the understanding of the relationship with God is that if I live right and I do right, then things will go right in my life. And if things aren't going well in my life, then that's because I'm doing something wrong. I'm living wrong. And it's just not a good teaching. It's not good, it's not wise, and it's not true. And so the commentator points out, listen to the words of the psalmist. And now he's continuing to invite people to engage in, to think about, to take the steps necessary to walk with God, to have a relationship with God. I no better words, walking with God. And he goes on to brag about the Lord's attributes. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. What the commentator says, which I think is so profound, is he says, yes, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, but a relationship with God doesn't keep your heart from being broken in this life. I think that's pretty profound. Listen, and God saves those who are spiritually crushed. But in this humble relationship with God, there's no guarantee that you won't be spiritually crushed. Who else would he be talking to? You hear what I'm saying? He saves those who are spiritually crushed. That means that life is going to continue to be what life is. Sometimes you get crushed spiritually. And sometimes your heart is broken. And he goes on, the righteous ones, remember who they are. The righteous ones' afflictions are many. Think about that sentence, right? It's verse 20 or 19, depending on how you're counting. A righteous person's afflictions are many. But the Lord delivers them from them all. The evil shall Evil itself shall slay the wicked, and those who hate the righteous will be desolate. The Lord redeems the soul of his servants, and all those who seek refuge in him will not be desolate. So I don't know. I'm going to reread the psalm in the plain language, but I just want to read for you what I think is just really important in terms of the language of the Psalms and the theology of the Hebrew Scriptures. Theology meaning, what are the building blocks of how we're to think about a relationship with God? Does having a life where you pay attention to and you nurture an awareness of God in your life, does that mean that your life is going to be charmed somehow? Does that mean that you're going to be, free from the evils that everybody else has to face? Listen to what the commentator here, I don't say his name often enough, but Peter Craigie, who is the Old Testament scholar. Listen to what he says here. In the context of the Old Testament theology, one of the Psalms' most profound insights concerning the instruction on the fear of the Lord. Remember, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom? This fear, this awe, respect, is not only the foundation of the wisdom tradition, but it is also one of the biblical ideas most easily abused or misunderstood. The fear of the Lord is indeed the foundation of life. It is the key to joy in life. The psalmist says that. And it's also the key to long and happy days. But it is not a key, it is not a guarantee that life will always be easy, devoid of the difficulties that may seem to mar so much of human experience. The fear of the Lord establishes joy and fulfillment in all of life's experiences. It may mend the broken heart, but it does not prevent the heart from being broken. I'm going to say that again. It may mend the broken heart, but it does not prevent the heart from being broken. It may restore the spiritually crushed, but it does not crush the forces that may create oppression. The psalm, if fully grasped, dispels the naivete of that faith which does not contain within it the strength to stand against the onslaught of evil. I don't know if that comes across to you the way it does to me, but it makes so much sense, and it endears me to this psalm. I'm going to read those parts of it again where this comes out. Who is the man that takes pleasure in life and loves days, that he may see the goodness? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Turn from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears open to their cry for help. The Lord's face is against those who do evil, to cut off the memory of them from the earth. They cry out, and the Lord hears and delivers them from all their troubles. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are spiritually crushed. The righteous one's afflictions are many, but the Lord delivers them from them all. Now, the last thing I want to say before I turn and read is this profound little juicy phrase that talks about seek peace and pursue it. You can seek peace, but seeking peace alone, wishing for peace, praying for peace alone, does not substitute. There's so much in this psalm that talks about the attitude of the heart and the mind, but how it has to be related to action. And here's no better illustration of it than this one. Seek peace and pursue it. For although the understanding that peace does not merely arrive, but must be pursued ardently, has been in this world for a long time. We've known this. We have known this for a long time. The history of the present century and of our present day, I would say, gives little evidence that the ancient lesson has been learned. Seek peace and pursue it. All right, now I'm going to switch over to Eugene Peterson's translation in the Message. If you're looking for a pretty good, accurate translation of the Psalms and then also of the New Testament, the works of Eugene Peterson, who was a Presbyterian pastor in Maryland, spent most of his life in this really valuable work. Listen as I read Psalm 34 in a contemporary translation. I bless God every time, every chance I get. My lungs expand with God's praise. I live and breathe God. If things aren't going well, hear this and be happy. Join me in spreading the news. Together, let's get the word out. God met me more than halfway. God freed me from my anxious fears. Look at God. Give God your warmest smile. Never hide your feelings from God. When I was desperate, I called out, and God got me out of a tight spot. God's angels set up a circle of protection around us. Sets up a circle of protection around us while we pray. Open your mouth and taste. Open your eyes and see how good God is. Blessed are you who run to God. Worship God if you want the best. Worship opens doors to all of God's goodness. Young lions on the prowl get hungry, but God seekers are full of God. Come, children, listen closely. I'll give you a lesson in the worship of God. Who out there has a lust for life? Can't wait each day to come upon beauty. And guard your tongue from profanity, and no more lying through your teeth. Turn your back on sin. Do something good. Embrace peace. Don't let it get away. God keeps an eye on God's friends. God's ears pick up every moan and groan. God won't put up with rebels. God will call them from the pack. Is anyone crying for help? God is listening, ready to rescue you. If your heart is broken, you'll find God right there. If you're kicked in the gut, God will help you catch your breath. Disciples so often get into trouble. Still, God is there every time. God is your bodyguard, shielding every bone. Not even a finger gets broken. The wicked commit slow suicide. They waste their lives hating the good. God pays for each slave's freedom. No one who runs to God loses out. So, there you have it, my friends. Psalm 34. It's a beauty. It's one that is filled with sometimes the repeated messages of life that sometimes have to come around again and again and again and again. The fear of the Lord, standing in awe, humility, crying out to God, and knowing God's presence with us. Taste and see Come on and try it. Try just once, opening your eyes and your ears to the grandeur and the magnitude of God, even in our times of difficulty and struggle, even in times where hostile, aggressive nations are maiming and destroying. Open your hearts and your minds to the power and the wonder and the grandeur of God. God does deliver in our time of need. But times of need does come. It does come. The fear of the Lord isn't the beginning of a charmed life. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of a life that you will know God with you in every circumstance of life that comes, for the heart-crushing and even for the bone-breaking experiences of life. So, my friends, when you're looking for something good to read in the Bible, Psalm 34 is a good one. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Come, let's walk together with God, and we'll find in life the deliverance that we need, and the comfort and assurance that we need in order to know that life is good. Thank you, my friends. That's all for today. I'll see you next week. Next week will be a Wednesday before Maundy Thursday, but I will still be here on Wednesday for this study, and I look forward to talking with you at that time. God bless you, my friends.